This is ABC 26 News This Week.
Good morning and welcome to ABC 26 This Week. I'm Liz Reyes. Well, the war with Iraq is now in its second week. Right now, nearly 5,000 Louisiana reservists and National Guard are in the Persian Gulf trying to topple the regime of Saddam Hussein. The headquarters of one of those reserve branches, the Marine Corps, is located right here in New Orleans. And joining us now to talk about their role in the war with Iraq are Major General Larry Taylor, Deputy Commander of the Marine Corps Reserve, and ABC 26 military analyst, retired Marine Colonel Wade Benson. My thanks to both of you for joining us this morning.
Nice to be here.
Well, let me start with you, General Taylor. Your office is responsible for Marine Reserves across the country. Let's get that right off the top, right?
That's correct.
It's not just those here in New Orleans.
The entire Marine Corps Reserve is headquartered here in New Orleans.
So what are the numbers we're looking at in terms of nationwide that have been called up so far?
We just went over 20,000 Marine Corps reservists that have been mobilized. Of those 20,000, 17,500 roughly are in organized units. We call that the Selected Marine Corps Reserve. And of that 17,000 plus, about 14,000 have been either deployed forward or are on their way forward.
And locally?
Locally, I'm sure it's of great interest to the folks here in New Orleans. The 3rd Battalion, 23rd Marines, 23rd Marine Regiment is headquartered right here in New Orleans, and they have been mobilized. One of those companies, the Headquarters and Service Company, is based right here at the lakefront. Another company is in Baton Rouge, and there are other companies scattered around this part of the country. They have been mobilized. They have not gone out of the country yet. They're training now at 29 Palms, California, which is our primary desert environment training facility. And at some point, they may or may not be called forward, and of course, we don't know when or where that would be.
Okay. Because of the technology, this war has been brought home for everyone. You can literally turn on your TV and see moment by moment the pictures we've been seeing with the convoys moving towards Baghdad. Would those be some of the situations where some of these Marines would find themselves? I mean, would any of these pictures we've seen so far be part of their job description?
Yes, this battalion that I just referred to that's headquartered here in New Orleans is an infantry battalion, and of course the infantry is the tip of the spear, as we like to say. We've also already got some Marine Corps Reserve units that are involved and have been in some of those pictures that you've seen. The 4th Amtracs, 4th Amphibian Tractor Battalion, which is some folks, one company of that battalion is located just up the road in Gulfport, Mississippi, and they've been involved, and various other Marine Corps Reserve units as well.
Okay, and you both probably could speak on this, but give us some idea what it's like right now to be part of a military family, given the situation that we're in. I mean, unless you're there, you really don't know, or having a loved one there. What is the situation like right now? I mean, outside of the job, when you're talking to each other, what are you hearing from people?
Well, we have a very structured and formal key volunteer network and a family readiness program, and there are personnel, when a unit is mobilized and deploys away from its home training center, is a cadre of people who remain behind, active duty Marines and in some cases Navy medical personnel who remain behind, not merely to take care of the home training center and the needs of the taking care of the remain behind equipment, but also to take care of the families and any of the other requirements that inevitably come up when so many of the family members leave.
Right. And right now, so many of them are glued to their TV sets,
yes,
watching this day by day. Retired Colonel Wade Benson, there have been some critics that have come forward so far as we've watched these images across our TV screen that are saying, you know, my concern is there may not be enough troops on the ground. You've had some former military experts and some current ones who just recently retired voicing the same concerns. What do you say about that there may not be enough troops on the ground there?
Well, the first comment I would make there, observation, is that it's very easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. If we had gone straight on to Baghdad, had not had the opposition we've had, then the criticism would have been, well, we've had too many troops. We didn't need to mobilize all these people and cause all this disruption. So it's very difficult. Now, while a lot of the people who are military analysts like myself, retired military people, give our own observations, we in fact do not have the details of the war plans that are being carried out. So I'd say it's kind of easy to sit back and say you should do this or you should do that. Now, having said that, recall also that the original plan called for bringing the Army's 4th Infantry Division, mechanized a heavy infantry from the north through Turkey. Well, that didn't work out because of the situation with Turkey. That's now being rectified. Their equipment has come around through the Red Sea, and the troops are being deployed from Fort Hood, Texas, as we speak. So they were all a part of the original plan to be there. And also, I'm sure the plans call for the insertion of additional forces depending on the situation as it evolves. So the fact that we only have a finite number there, do we need more? We'll see as the situation unfolds, possibly so, but if so, the plans call for bringing them in. Remember, some of our previous conversations were about the need for taking the ports down around Basra. Well, that's one of the reasons for that, so you can flow additional troops and equipment through there as the need arises for them.
Okay, General Taylor, what do you say to people who, loved ones that you may run into with loved ones over there on the front lines that bring to you this concern? Can our guys handle it? I mean, are there enough of them in there? What happens when they get to Baghdad? They may have the training, but what happens if it's an urban warfare type setting? What do you say to them?
Well, the outcome, of course, is not in doubt. I would also add that I don't think there has probably ever been an operational commander in the history of warfare who didn't want more on the scene, and I'm sure that would be true. That is true today, and will always be true. My personal opinion is that this tug of war that we hear about at the strategic level is something that occurred during the last conflict in the Gulf War, and of course it was so relatively easy, as we saw, that led to the conclusion.
There were a lot more forces.
There were a lot more forces, and that led to the conclusion that we would not need nearly as much this time. The numbers that are there now are certainly they have to lead. They lead to the conclusion clearly that the outcome is not in doubt. Of course, the difficulties that we may encounter en route to Baghdad and for however long we have to stay there, there'll be a matter of debate for months and years to come. And no doubt, if we were to have to do something like this again at some point further down the road in some other location, the numbers will be a matter of debate then as well. I think it'll always be a matter of debate.
And there are also some concerns that have been raised, once they do get to Baghdad. The concern is you've got the pt1, the so-called Special Republican Guard units that are in civilian clothing. How big a problem is that going to be for us? And the fear is this is going to turn into another Vietnam in this urban warfare, long conflict with no end in sight. How do you comment on that?
Well, as you know, Liz, I've been worried about the urban warfare issue from the very beginning of the war. And the fact that they have the Republican Guards dressed in civilian clothes, these kinds of things, just complicates an already complicated matter. The last thing we want to do is to have to enter the city of Baghdad and fight street to street. We know that's the worst possible thing that we can do, but I mean, if we have to do it, we are prepared to do so. But we would certainly hope, and the plan is to be able to soften that up with airstrikes, artillery, tanks, those kinds of things, to the point to where it would definitely soften the blow in terms of having to go into the street-to-street fighting. But there's absolutely no question that if we do have to enter the city of Baghdad, it could be a long day.
During Vietnam, there was a clear effort to make sure that it was military targets and try not to hit the civilians, and some concerns have been raised that they're trying to do this again, which puts troops more at risk because they have to think twice as opposed to react immediately. Both of you haven't been on the front lines. How big a problem will that be given that approach once we get to Baghdad?
Well, the American way of war is now and always has been, perhaps even more so now, to certainly avoid collateral damage whenever possible. And of course, it's infuriating to see some of the tactics that the other side uses especially with respect to the civilians that are used as human shields, and in fact taking off their uniforms and putting on civilian clothes. But however infuriating that may be, we have to keep in mind that that we play by the rules, and yes, it's true that sometimes that can be costly in the short run. In the long run, I think it best serves the strategic objectives that we have in this conflict and in every conflict.
Okay. And after those horrid pictures of the POWs that Al Jazeera were running and then word of others being captured, have you had calls from people saying, you know, I want to go in there and help the cause? Have you had any calls like that at your headquarters locally?
Well, not specifically since those horrifying images that we saw the other day, but ever since the conflict became imminent, we have had an upsurge in interest from retired Marines, from former Marines, from Marines that just recently got off of active duty and want to get back in, Marines that had just completed their obligated service with their reserve unit and now want to get back in the unit again. It's part of the good news story is that when unfortunate things like conflict on this scale happen, there are plenty of Marines out there that want to be part of it.
Right. Well, hopefully this will be a short war and, you know, we can find some resolution hopefully soon. And I thank you both for coming in. Thanks for your expert opinions today. Our thanks to Major General Larry Taylor and retired Marine Colonel Wade Benson for joining us this morning. Next, how you can help military families stay connected during the war with Iraq.